All right, big exciting day because the Z is going to have some repairs done. That's right. Zed's got problems. Found a mobile mechanic. He's going to come by in his truck. I don't know if he'll have his dynamometer trailer on it, but I've seen that in the pictures that he does have one, so that's pretty cool. But we're not doing that kind of work on it today. We're just doing repair work on it today. I didn't want to take it to the dealership because the one by my house was going to have the bike for like a couple of weeks so they could have it, order the parts, wait for the parts to get delivered to their other shop, and then get repackaged and sent to their shop because they're not technically a Kawasaki dealer, even though their other shop is. That's across town, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really want to be without the bike for 2 weeks, so I figured I'd call this mechanic guy and see what he was all about. He said, hey, order the parts. I'll just show up when you got all the parts. Bang, 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 get them on, and we'll be done in a few hours, and that way, you know, I don't have to come twice, and you don't have to be without your bike for a whole week, which is, I thought sounded pretty good, so here we are. So what's wrong with it, you might say? Well, let's see if this camera can get down there. Got this new Removu thing I'm using. Not sure how well it works. See how steady this shot is. Probably see it better with this camera than I can see it myself. There's some gunk, some grime, some funk coming out of the old water pump there, and there's 3 seals that are potentially causing that coolant to come out of there. I bought all 3 of the seals. There's a gasket, a mechanical seal, and some other kind of seal, whatever all that means, and they all go in there. So he's going to take that apart, see what's leaking, and hopefully the seals will sort that out. Hopefully I don't have to buy a new pump. Now the bike's got less than 10,000 miles on it, so it really shouldn't be having this kind of a problem, or any kind of damn problems, honestly, especially not 2. We are also going to be working on this. So inside there on the side of the engine, you know, valve cover gasket, there's a bunch of oil and grime all coming out, and it's leaking all the way down in there. So you can see all this oil and grime and nastiness all over the engine in here. And if you go up a little bit higher, hard to see from this angle, you can see there's a lot of grime as well on the headers, on the header, and that's where that's coming from, is that valve cover gasket right there. So we got to replace this valve cover gasket that goes on top, and we got to replace the gasket, or maybe 2 or maybe 3 gaskets that go in this water pump right here, and then we should be good. And while he's at it, I'm also going to address an issue that isn't really a problem, or rather it is a problem, but it's not really something that's broken. The bike kind of came this way. So this bike is like Super Street Fighter version of a Ninja 1000, and a Ninja 1000 is meant for like a sport touring duty, right? So it's got good legs for the highway, and on the other hand, this one is geared super low. So when you're riding this thing, it'll go 0 to 60 like in half a second or whatever. But once you're on the highway, it really doesn't enjoy going past like 80, 90 miles an hour. And before you think I'm nuts for wanting to go 80 or 90 miles an hour on the freeway, just remember, if you're not from Arizona, people drive fast as hell on our highways out here. They're very big, they're wide, they're straight, there's no curves in them or anything like that, and the weather's always good. So most people are going about 80 miles an hour anyway. So you really kind of have to be doing those speeds comfortably to keep up with traffic and do what you want to do on the bike. I'm sure that's debatable. You could hang out in the right lane and go 65 miles an hour if you want. I just think that's suicide. That's just me. So I'd rather be in the HOV/motorcycle lane all the way over on the left, and I think that's the best place to be. So anyway, all that little side note out of the way, we got to change the gearing on this thing. So on a motorcycle, if you're not familiar, you can just change the back sprocket or the front sprocket and kind of change the overall ratio of how much power is going to the back wheel. Can't do much with the gears inside, which on this are very short and close together, and I'll just live with that. But basically, I need this thing, instead of spinning, let's take a look at the old tachometer here. Start it up, maybe I can show you. Alright, so 80 to 90 miles an hour is like here on the tach, like 7,000 to 8,000 RPM, well, maybe 7,000 RPM. So once you go to pass someone and you're pushing it to like 90 or so, 95 at least what it says on here, who knows if that's right, you're here like, 2,000 RPM short of redline, and any vehicle doesn't like to be that high, in its rev range. It's not good for the motor. You're just like, you're putting too much strain on it for keeping it there at extended periods of time. That's why you have a gearbox, so you can keep it here when you're just cruising and push it here when you need to accelerate or pass somebody. So we're going to change the gearing. So we're going to do that by changing out this front sprocket. The reason I went with the front is because I found the one I need for the right price with the right chain size and the right amount of teeth, and finding stuff for the Z1000 wasn't amazingly easy, so I just went with it. It's got one more tooth on the front, so that extra tooth, according to this chart I found on some other website, according to that chart, it should give me like 20 mile per hour advantage in terms of top speed on the freeway. So, you know, based on how it rides at the moment, you know, if 90 is here and 70 is here-ish, well, then that should bring my 90 down to here, and that's freaking awesome. That means when I need to go and really haul ass and pass somebody, that's when I'll be using this range. And otherwise, the engine just be cruising and keeping things low RPM, nice and easy on the motor, less strain, less heat, all that good stuff. And I'm really excited to see how it rides after I switch that sprocket out, because I want this thing to really be a little more relaxed on the freeway as opposed to just revving the nuts off it to keep up with traffic. Anyway, that's that.
Alright, so we got some repairs done on the old Zed. Haven't been able to ride it in like a week because the weather's been so crazy. So it's been about a week since the bike was actually finished. I just haven't been able to ride it. So, you know, we finished the oil leak fix. Valve cover gasket is on. We also fixed the leaking water pump. And, you know, it's been a week of it sitting there in the garage. I've rode it a couple of times and looks like we're all good now. There's no more leaky poos. No more leaky poos. Alright, so here we are, back on the Zed after some repairs. Had a little downtime, but we're back now. After I got the bike fixed, we had some 20 to 30 mile an hour winds basically every day since I got it fixed. So one of the main reasons I had it fixed by the mobile mechanic is so I wouldn't have as much downtime or time off the bike while it was getting fixed. And it turns out that it didn't matter because it was too windy to really want to ride anyway. But whatever. So it's all fixed up. Bike mechanic came out, did a good job. He was quick. I think you saved me some dough for sure, and now my bike's not leaking oil or coolant anymore, so I'm very happy about that. So 4 hours of labor to do both those jobs, plus change the sprocket, which is the main thing, and that's the big reason I'm doing this little ride right here, just to see what it's like with the new Sprocket. And I have to say, oh boy, does it make a world of difference. You know, the extra RPMs, well, how do I put that? Now it's at lower RPMs based on what it used to be. You know, here I am at 80, about 6,000. Used to be at like definitely closer to 8,000 RPM, cruising at 80 miles an hour. And you can see right now I'm on the freeway, I'm not passing anybody. This guy's in front of me, that guy's, you know, pretty much passing me in the slow lane. You know, I'm not like ripping by people. Okay, this guy's going a little bit slower, but now I'm down to 77, whatever. So, you know, at about 80 miles an hour, you're keeping up with traffic. This is kind of normal speed around her on the freeway. Then if you want to accelerate and pass somebody, you know, now look. Now we're only at 7,000 RPM while passing somebody. And then back to that 6,000 RPM when we're staying still. So try it again. So before, you'd go to pass somebody at this speed, and you'd be maxing out your engine revs way more. You'd be up at like 10,000 RPM just trying to maintain this passing speed. And it was just too much for the motor. So anyway, it's a noticeable difference in RPMs, this sprocket versus the OEM sprocket. and it is so much nicer. The bike is just way more relaxed on the freeway. You don't feel like you're pushing it. You know, before you're doing 80, you go to pass someone at 90, and the bike's like vibrating like crazy, and it just feels like you're pushing it harder than it wants to go. So the Sprocket really helped calm this bike down on the freeway. It also had the added benefit of giving me a little bit longer first gear. The gears on this bike are very short. If you own one, you'll know that. So when we're riding at parking lot speeds, that little bit of extra room in first gear really makes it less twitchy at low speeds. Just makes it easier, more manageable to ride when you're going slow. You know, just a bit more relaxed bike. Now there's always a downside to messing with your sprockets. If you do what I did, you increase your top speed, but you lower your acceleration, or rather you raise and I don't know how that works. Okay, you know, I put a bigger sprocket on the front, which gave me a higher top speed, but at the expense of acceleration. So it doesn't accelerate quite as hard. Now, because I am reasonably sane, I feel like the 1,000 cc's worth of power that's coming out of this thing is still plenty, even with the adjusted gear ratios. It still hauls ass. When you really want to blow the doors off somebody when you're passing them, you might have to drop it down a gear now, or wait that extra half a second for the power to build. Whereas before, you could really be in any gear and just open the gas and say goodnight to whoever was next to you. Or good day, or fuck you, or whatever you want to say to them. So all in all, I'm really happy with the whole experience. The bike is fixed, it's not leaking stuff out of it anymore, and on top of that, it rides better than it did when I took it in because of this small little addition. I really gotta say again, if you have one of these Z1000s and you ride on the freeway like I do to go to work and stuff like that, you should really look into putting them taller gears in it, because it just feels so much better. It's so much nicer to ride. Then you got this guy on his fucking Jeep Safari. So overall, I would recommend Scott the Bikesmith. He seems like a nice guy. He was punctual. Came when he said he would. Did the job he said he would do. So that's cool. Thank you, Scott. Not that I need to give him a good review, because if you look at the guy's like Yelp or whatever, I mean, everybody loves him. I could call the guy every bad name in the book and he'd probably still have plenty of business. But if it makes you feel any better about hiring him, he's got my approval.